I would like to speak about the Megilah in honor of Purim that's coming up, because in the past we've spoken about some of the themes of Purim, right? Some of the hashkafas of Purim, but we haven't gone into the Megilah. And of course, reading the Megilah, we read it twice. It's one of the mitzvahs of the day. And so I wanted to focus on that. And another reason why it's so important is because unlike Hanukkah, right, Purim's sister holiday, we don't have the mitzvah of telling over the story of Hanukkah on Hanukkah. On the other hand, in Purim, we do have a mitzvah. We have the mitzvah to read the Megilah twice. And not only do we have the mitzvah to read the Megilah twice, it's actually the halacha that we have to hear every single word of the Megilah. If we don't, then we haven't fulfilled the halacha of hearing it, or the mitzvah of hearing it. What makes this particularly interesting is, again, that halacha applies to every chapter in the Megilah, even the first two. Now, why is that a chiddush? Because if we're to read the first two prakim, they actually seemingly have nothing to do with the story of Purim. If we're to go to the prayers, right, to the Amida and the Birkat Hamazon, what do we say? We say Ala Nisim. That's a special insert for Purim. And what does it start from? From Haman. Haman tried to kill the Jews, but Haman only makes his entrance in the third parak. That's really when the Purim story starts. So what's the deal with these first two prakim? What's the deal with these first two chapters? Why are they here? What do they do for us? And so Rav Bernstein, basing his comments on the Sefer Yosef Lekach, it was written by Rabbi Eliezer Ashkenazi. He lived in the 1500s, and the Yosef Lekach actually formed the basis for the Vilna Gaon and the Malbim's Pirushim on Megilat Esther. So very important work, and that's where Rav Bernstein is basing his comments on. So why do we read these first two prakim? And so truth is, because this actually sets up the entire situation of Purim. We can't appreciate the personal hashgacha, right? God's involvement in the story unless we have the background information. The background information is critical to appreciate what happened 9 years later when Haman enters the scene. Okay, so now that we see that, so what is happening? What is the background? So the background is like this. Bavel was in charge of the world. Nebuchadnezzar obviously had conquered Israel and was doing very well for himself. However, by his grandson's time, Persia had come on the scene. And that's what was happening. So now Bavel is no longer in control, but rather Paras is, Persia. And what happens is, Achashverosh, who is the king of Persia, decided to move the center of power from Bavel. Even the Persians were running the world from Bavel. They decided to move it from Bavel to Shushan. And that is the reason for the party. Right? The reason why there's this huge celebration is because now Achashverosh is making it known publicly, right? This 180-day party that any important people who want to come and get things settled are going to come here to Shushan in Persia, not in Bavel. So now you know. And therefore, there's this kind of shift of power that's going on here that Achashverosh is celebrating and making official through his 180-day party. And in fact, again, that is part of the miracle of Purim. Now, how do we see that? Because if we're to look into the third parak when we are introduced to Haman, so it says, what do we see? When we're introduced to Mordechai, it says, of the Yehudi Hayab Shushan Avirah. That's one of the psukim we actually read. It's in the second parak in verse Hey, the fifth verse. Ish Yehudi Hayab Shushan Avirah Ushma Mordechai Ben Yair Ben Shimi Ben Kish Ish Yemini. Why is this a chiddush? Well, it's such a chiddush that there's a Jew in the capital. And the answer is yes, actually. Why? Because it doesn't say Vayihi Ish Yehudi B'Shushan Avirah. It says Ish Yehudi Hayab Shushan Avirah. He was already there. Why is this such a chiddush? Because actually, what happened was, we think, the Purim story happened, and Mordechai was there, of course, and therefore he was there to solve the problem. The answer is no. Actually, what happened was, Mordechai was not on location. He was not in the capital city, but the capital city was actually moved to where Mordechai was, because it says Ishudi Hayab Shushan. He was already there when Shushan was made into the Bira. And that's the chiddush, and that's part of the hashgacha that's going on here. Fine. So the capital city moves to Shushan, to where Mordechai is, right, very conveniently for us. And then it's also important to realize that there were actually two parties going on. That is to say, there's this huge 180-day party, and then subsequently there is a 7-day party. And it was actually at the 7-day party where Achashverosh summons Vashti, and Vashti famously refuses. Okay, So what do we understand from this? What's happening? We see that if we're to pay close attention to the psukim, we'll see Achashverosh when he issues. This is the first parak in pasuk Yud Aleph. Achashverosh summons Vashti and says, "Lahaviyad Vashti Hamalka," right? Vashti, the queen, Lifnei Hamelech Becheter Malchut Darot Hamim Vasarim Etiofia Kitavat Marehi, right? Because she's good looking. And then the very next pasuk, what does it say? V'tamen Hamalka Vashti. What is the difference between Yud Alef's way of saying Vashti Hamalka, right? Vashti, the queen, as opposed to the next pasuk when Vashti refuses, Hamalka Vashti, Queen Vashti. The queen comes first in the second pasuk. What is the deal there? And then at the end of the Yud Beis, we see Vayiksof Hamelech Me'od, right? And the king got very angry. V'chamato barabo, and his anger burned within him. What is this? Why is the king getting angry twice? What is this? What is the difference between getting angry and his anger burning within him? What is going on here? So, the background here is that there are actually some serious Shalom Bayit issues going on. Now, what do I mean? That Achashverosh was actually not born into royalty. I believe it's the Gemara that says Achashverosh was actually the stable boy of the previous kings. And he, with determination and by killing his way to the top, he became king of Persia. Okay. Vashti, on the other hand, was actually born royalty. Her blood was blue. She had the Yichus. And so Achashverosh, right, who is now king, and Vashti, who was formerly royalty, decided to get together because they each needed each other. Vashti had no power, but she had the lineage. Achashverosh had the power, but he didn't have like that family line to ennoble him. And so they came together. And now the argument that's going on between Achashverosh and Vashti, awkwardly and publicly, is who is the Iker? Is Achashverosh the Iker because he has the power, or is Vashti the Iker because she was always royalty? She was born royal. By the time she was conceived, she was royalty, as opposed to Achashverosh, the stable boy. And this is part of why, and this is of course part of why Achashverosh decided to move his capital city from Bavel to Persia, because he wanted to establish, I am the Iker, not Bavel. I am the king, and this is where the center of power is from now on. And fine. And the Malbim also, again, Malbim bases his commentaries on the Yosef Lekach. It's also very interesting to see who does Achashverosh invite to the party. So really, if we look, so it says, Vishnat Shalosha Lamalcho Asam Ishteh Lacho Sarav, right, all of his ministers, Vavadav, and his servants, Chel, Paras, Umadai, right, even his soldiers, and then, of course, Apartumi, which is the governors, and then the other ministers of the other countries. So the servants of Achashverosh actually get precedence to the other ministers of the other countries. And Achashverosh is saying very clearly, listen, Persia is the center of power. You could join us if you'd like, but yeah, you can join us when you like, if you'd like, but this is where things are happening now. And that's part of what's happening here. So, says Yosef Lekach, at this two-part party, right? So fine, that's the 180-day party, but then we have the 7-day party, and at the second party, that was kind of more of a for everybody, right? Right. So the king made a party for everybody, right, from the greatest to the lowest. Right? He made a huge party for 7 days in the garden of his palace. And that was a problem. Why? Because Vashti then made her party. What did she do? Achashverosh foolishly left the palace alone when he was arguing with Vashti. Now Vashti said, listen, stable boy, you could take all of your little people and you could go out to the garden. That's good. I'm glad you found your place. We have the palace. And that's what Vashti was effectively kind of telling Achashverosh. And Achashverosh realized that he made a mistake. So he was like, how do I salvage this situation? So what does he do? He says, like, you know what? Bring Vashti. Vashti Hamalka. First, she's Vashti. She's only a queen secondarily because I made her queen. And moreover, why did I marry her? The reason why Achashverosh really married her was in order to get part of her lineage. What does he say? He says, Vashti Hamalka lifnei melech becheter malchut, la'arot ha'amim v'asarim, to show all the people, et yafia, kituvat marehi. Right? She looks good. That's why I married her. That's pretty much the sum total. Once you see her, you'll get it. And that's pretty much all there is to Vashti. Now Vashti gets this message, and she has a different message to say. What does she say? Hamalka Vashti. She says, listen, stable boy, I was born royalty. You're a nothing. I am Hamalka Vashti. I'm Queen Vashti, and you better remember that. Right? And so she refused. And now, what's interesting is this message is conveyed to Achashverosh. But what's conveyed? Everyone knows that Achashverosh summoned Vashti, right? But they don't know why she refused, because the Sarasim very surreptitiously told Achashverosh, by the way, she's not coming, and here's why. And then, of course, she said, because she said, you're the stable boy, I'm staying where I am, I'm the queen, and you're nothing. And that's why V'iksof HaMelech Me'od, right? The king got very angry. Publicly, that was noticeable. V'chamato barabo. However, his anger burned within him because he's the only one who perceived the slight to his honor. That was not a public thing, right? These messengers knew very well that they probably shouldn't publicize why Vashti had refused. So his anger burned within him. But by the way, there's a different interpretation of V'chamato barabo, is that he was angry with himself. V'chamato barabo, his anger with himself. Why? Because he got himself into this situation. What was he doing? He actually needed Vashti, but now he has to deal with this situation where Vashti is kind of slapping him across the face publicly, if you will. And he didn't know what to do. And so as a result, he had to call all of his committees. He says, he calls the wise men, the people who know the times, and then he calls his legal committee. And then also he calls Vakaravilav Karshana, Shetar, Admata, etc. He calls all these 7 Shiva, Tsari, Parasu, Madai, Pnei HaMelech, Hayashim Rishona B'Malchut. So he's calling Committee A, Committee B, and then his 7 ministers to figure out, like, well, what's he supposed to do with this situation now? And that's how he needs to try to figure out how to do with Vashti, but we'll have to deal with this another time. We'll end it there. And Shabbat Shalom. I'm sorry we didn't speak of this week's Parsha, but have a wonderful Purim, and we'll see you next week.